Okay, so now let's consider some concrete example to see how the rules can be applied and gain some more intuition. First of all, let's see one example for preconditions. Let's now consider the same class setup, and also this will be the code that we just discussed. I'm assuming that you're okay with the structure of the code. Okay, let's now consider just the precondition. Let's say in the smartphone class over here, the parent class, and for the get reminders, we have the following alpha, the precondition. We say that in order for you to get to use the get reminders function, the battery level for the phone currently must be at least 10%. So you can see 0.1, it simply means 10%, right? Larger than or equal to 10%. Okay, you can think about what would be the set of satisfying value right away. Let's say in the child class over here, as a specialization of the smartphone. Let's say now we want to say require else. So don't worry about the else just yet. I'll talk about what this really means later. Let's say for the precondition in the child class, we got gamma over here. We say that the battery level should be larger than or equal to 15%, so 0.5. So that's the 15%. So now we want to know, statically speaking, does this particular precondition that we declare in the child class level, is it valid? Or does it make sense? It turns out it does not make sense. Let's see how the reasoning should go. Remember what we said before about the rule. In order to really, for the precondition, it should be that the child class precondition should be weaker. So it should be that alpha implies gamma. Let's see if that's the case. So we want to know the following. So we want to know if it is the case that alpha implies gamma, basically, right? So now basically what we're saying is, you can think about alpha is the battery level, BL, larger than or equal to 10%. Does that imply the battery level in the child class is 15%? Larger than or equal to 15%. Is this the case? Apparently it is not the case. How do you prove it? As long as you can find out if there's anything that can satisfy this particular predicate over here, but it does not satisfy this particular value. That's how you can prove it, right? So why don't we do a very quick check? Okay, so let's say this is alpha, and this one over here is gamma, right? Let's use different color. So now you can simply draw a picture quickly. So now if you try alpha, so it's going to be basically this set over here. So alpha, okay? And then it's going to be 10%, 11%, etc., right? So you're going to get 10, 11, and also 12, 13, 14, and also 15, 16, and etc., right? So these are the values. So now apparently you can see in the case of gamma, it can only include the allowable value from 15. So you can think about this part over here is really the subset for gamma, right? So this will be the gamma. So you can see it is not the case that, so you can think about this will be the satisfying value set for gamma. And this part over here is alpha, right? So now, is alpha actually a subset of gamma? Apparently it is not the case, right? So you can see alpha is definitely not the subset of gamma for the satisfying value sets. So it is not the case, right? So now we have just illustrated or proved it's not the case, right? So one counter example. So one counter example would be, you can think about what? Basically, these values over here, we can see, so either, for example, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. All these values over here satisfy alpha, but not gamma. So why is this? Why would this logical relation actually make the design for this particular precondition over here not valid? Let's think about why. Okay, so basically for these values over here, they are allowed by the precondition over here, but they are not allowed by this precondition over here. Why is that a problem over here? Okay, think about it this way. So remember the code structure that we spoke about previously. So now before we call this particular get reminders, we're going to check for alpha, right? And also that because of dynamic binding. And also before we call this get reminders again with a different dynamic type, we're going to call gamma over here, right? So now let's say, for example, let's say in the case of alpha, let's say if the current value for the battery level is actually, let's say, let me just choose one of them. Okay, if that's 12%, In that case, so now for the 12%, it is actually allowed by the smartphone. You can think about statically, the smartphone allows anything that's actually larger than or equal to 10%, right? So now 12% definitely is okay. So there's no precondition violation. On the other hand, so now when we actually get to this particular part over here, get to this part over here. So now we still have 12% that used to be allowed as far as the smartphone static type is concerned. But now this particular dynamic type actually got some stronger precondition by requiring something that's requiring more. In that case, now 12% over here is going to cause some precondition violation. So think about intuitively, it's a shock. It's going to be a shock to the user of the phone. So they would say, well, when I see the expectation for the smartphone, it tells me that as long as the battery level is larger than or equal to 10%, in this case, indeed, 12% is indeed larger than or equal to 10%. But why am I actually getting a precondition violation? Simply because the poor design for this particular child class precondition, which means it's actually strictly stronger. Okay, so now it tells you that this precondition violation is really something we wouldn't expect because we are really satisfying the precondition for the child class, which is the 10% over here. All right, so now this will be a precondition violation. Let me finish the writing over here. Okay, so this, you can think about this example here. Basically, the design I'm presenting to you where the precondition over here is simply, so this will be a poor design. Because we actually got a stronger precondition. And the consequence of having a stronger precondition in the child class is you're going to get a shock to the user. So that's kind of contradictory to how they understand the static type of your variable over here. All right. Hopefully, this give you more intuition about why the first rule about the precondition, where the precondition for the child class must be weaker than the precondition for the parent class. Right. So hopefully this will help. Let's now move on to another example about postcondition. Okay. Let's take a look at this example over here. So now similar setup for the classes, but now we're going to focus on postcondition. So now let's say the postcondition goes like this. The postcondition in the parent class, let's call that beta. Okay, and the postcondition in the child class, we call that delta. So now the postcondition says, we're going to get a list of reminders. You can think about the result is simply the list. We say every event that's in the output set or output list is that all the events should be happening today. Right? So we want to guarantee to the user whatever events you're going to be reminded about, they should be the event that's happening today. For example, if my friend's birthday is tomorrow, I shouldn't be reminded today, right? So I want all the urgent reminders for today. Okay? So that's the postcondition for the parent class, the beta. And let's say we got something that's weaker, right? For example, well, I already told you the answer, but we'll argue that, we'll reason about it in a similar way. So now we got another postcondition here in this child class, right, in the iPhone 11 Pro. So now apparently you can see we are introducing a disjunction in the body of the universal quantification. We're saying that for every event that's actually in the reminder that's by iPhone 11 Pro, we're saying that the event is either going to happen today or it's going to happen tomorrow. Either one is okay. So that means I might be reminded about something that's actually going to happen tomorrow rather than simply just today, as guaranteed by the parent class, right? So that's the intuition I want you to get first. So now we want to know whether this particular design for the postcondition for the child class, is it good? Is it valid? Okay. So now we want to get back to the rule that we talked about previously. We say that given delta and also beta, the rule should be delta should really imply beta, right? So now let's see this. Let's see how we can understand this. The rule actually tells us the following. The rule, if you recall, should be that delta, which is over here, should really be stronger than, we should really ensure more. So it should be implies the beta. Okay, so now we want to know if that's the case. So basically we want to say, we want to prove that, we want to see if we can prove. So delta is the E is either today or tomorrow, happens today or I mean just put a disjunction over here, today or tomorrow. Does that imply when we say the E happens just today, right? That's the parent version. Basically what I'm doing over here is, okay, let's say this is a green and this is the pink over here, okay? Let's say for the green one over here, you can think about this part here is the beta. So this part over here is the beta. Okay, so this part here is the beta. And this part over here is the delta. I just have removed the universal quantification by just focusing on any arbitrary event that's in the set. Okay, so this will be delta. So we want to know whether this is the case, right? Apparently this is not the case. Well, easy to visualize. Why don't we do it quickly? So in order for this particular implication to hold, we know that the satisfying value set of this predicate here must be a subset of the satisfying value set for this predicate over here. It's actually the opposite. So let's see how opposite, exactly what I meant by the opposite. You can think about this particular set over here is really the delta over here, okay? And then you can think about this part over here strictly like a proper subset, basically. So this will be the beta. Okay, so now how do we understand it? You can think about every event that's in the green area is going to be all the events that's in today. So we're just going to say today. So what's actually in the delta but not in beta? Basically whatever that's actually from tomorrow, right? Tomorrow over here. Okay, so now why would this be problematic? Okay, let's think about this. What can be problematic is, if you think about the following, let me highlight the area for you. Okay, let me use the orange over here. What if we have a particular implementation that is actually going to return the output value that's only in the orange value, the orange area over here? Let's say the orange part is just the implementation, the supplier, right? So this will be the implementation. Okay, let me just draw a little bit better for you. You can think about this part here is the implementation that's provided by the supplier. So now the supplier will only output tomorrow events only. So now in that case, is it going to satisfy the delta? Apparently it is. It's simply just going to make sure it's either today or tomorrow, including when all the values are simply from tomorrow. Disjunction either way is okay, right? So now in this case, implementation will output tomorrow events only. Outputs tomorrow events only. Okay, let me just write it a little bit more complete. Only. Okay, let's see why this will be problematic, right? So far what I'm trying to illustrate to you is, let's assume there is a particular implementation over here that is actually going to satisfy the postcondition for the child class, because dynamic binding is going to make sure we should really call this particular delta. But now for that one there, we are moving to a possible extreme case where we are returning tomorrow events only. But now, would that create a shock to the clients? That's what we want to say, or that's what we want to see. Okay, let's see this. Again, let's go bring us back to the context for calling these features. First of all, let's talk about beta. You can think about beta is actually going to be invoked exactly over here, right? In this case, it's okay because get reminder is going to make sure we are basically expecting that every event that's actually going to be returned by the get reminders routine is going to be happen just today. So that one is actually okay. So you can think about this is what the clients would expect from the smartphone from the static type, which is about every event should be every event reminder should be happening today. Just today. On the other hand, if you think about at this point over here, upon the termination of get reminders for when the dynamic type is actually iPhone 11 Pro, right? Exactly here. So now we're going to check for delta. So here we're going to check for delta. Let's say we talk about this particular implementation over here where we return the tomorrow events only. So now, do you think it might be a shock? Let's say over here. So let's say here we have some some implementation that's going to be tomorrow events only. So now for me as a client or a user of the smartphone, of course I will be shocked, because when I'm using the smartphone, I'm definitely expecting that every event that's returned should be just today. But somehow the child class postcondition here is actually very poorly designed because it actually gives me a weaker predicate over here rather than a stronger predicates. So it does not really ensure more. It actually ensures less. Ensure less in the sense that what it can return possibly is just tomorrow events only. So it's not really ensuring exactly what I'm expecting when I look at the static type for the smartphone. Okay, so that's something you want to try to think a little bit more. So let me write it down over here. So this one here is going to be poorly designed because it actually ensures less. Okay, so you can think about the consequence of having such postcondition is the implementation can possibly satisfy this particular postcondition, but at the same time, I mean the orange part, it can satisfy the postcondition for this particular child class postcondition, but it can create a shock to the clients who is actually expecting the postcondition that's declared in the parent class over here. All right, so the two examples that we spoke about are the invalid cases when you design the precondition over here or when you define the postcondition. So let me just recap very quickly. Okay, so statically, how do you analyze the precondition and postcondition that you design in the child class? The rule will be, so the precondition should be, you should really get a weaker precondition. And then for the postcondition over here, you should really get a stronger postcondition. That's the rule. And then we also spoke about some concrete example when your precondition actually happens to be stronger is a poor design. Okay, it can actually create a shock to the user. You can review the intuition that we spoke about. Similarly, in the case of the postcondition, it will be considered poorly designed if you actually ensure less. And we also talk about the kind of a shock the client can get when you actually got some weaker postcondition. Okay, so you can think about delta is strictly weaker postcondition compared with the original postcondition here. Okay, so let me just go back to the slides and tell you how you can study for this example. So if you go back to the slides, the very two example I put over here, 2.2 and also 2.3. So these are exactly the two examples of invalid cases that I just spoke about. You can review them and look at the description over here. That corresponds to exactly what I just explained. And then how can you fix them? So that might be your question. So one way to fix them would be just simply swap the precondition and postcondition. In that case, all the static rules that we talk about will actually be can be provable. So you can look at this is one case for valid precondition, and this will be another case for valid postcondition. So you really review all the four concrete examples. We already spoke about two of them for the invalid cases, but you should be able to extrapolate from there to think about what it really means to be valid. Again, you should always go with the rule over here. Okay, so these rules are really important. That will be the main take-home message and learning outcome for this part of the lecture. And then make sure you can also understand the intuition from these examples before you move on to the next part.